Good morning, everybody. Not much happening again. Yesterday pretty much played out the way we thought. It looked like it was going to turn up or at least hold above the open, and it failed at the end of the day. One of those situations that I guess it just didn't break out. So I'm cautious. Traders sold and charts. And we got, I mentioned yesterday at the end of the day in the room, looked like a little mini, we call a bull sandwich. It was based on the gap down that happened on Thursday, and then we had the turnaround that gave it up. And it's not really a real what we call a bull sandwich because the bars aren't big, so it's not a potent type of a pattern, but not much going on. And so it's like, okay, we got a red bar, right? A wider range red bar that gapped down. We've got a downtrend. We do have an attempt that went to go up that, couldn't really hold on to, being the bigger green bar. Then yesterday was an inside day. It was attempts that looked like it was going to do something, and then it gave it up. So that went nowhere. And so now it's down here a little bit. It's coming off of the low, went down to 446, which is, the area of yesterday's low and coming up. So, all right, yesterday's high is 450, about 451. And so it's, we're really getting into like micro analysis on a daily time frame, which is kind of, I guess, kind of ridiculous. But so far, things aren't moving. And yeah, exactly, Steve. So we're snoozing here. And, I'm not sure what the market is waiting for. It could just be another snooze day, but if it attempts to go up and fails again today, I just don't see how it's not going to go down. And, for a personal bias, I'm hoping it does, because look, the more it goes down or the faster it goes down, the better the opportunity for prices to advance. So one of the things that we discussed was, does it go up, and potentially did it make a higher low, higher high, or does it just break here? And so looking at the weekly chart, it's not your typical historical type of a pattern because the head is so big. But this shoulder here, which, if this doesn't go anywhere at the end of the week, maybe we get that red bar. There's our neckline, and 400, we'll see. I mean, so you kind of do one of these things and kind of project it down. It usually lines up, and there's some support over there. But right now we're just waiting. There is time for it to happen, Robert, for this to play out as this. All it, to do that, to start, all it's got to do is take out yesterday's high, and that being a red bar, that starts the move. And so that, then you've got the prior day there, which is lined up with Thursday. And, but hey, let's see if it starts moving. Right now, it's just sitting here doing nothing. Nothing going on. And I was going to look at the internals, but that chart's a little skewed. I don't know. It was anyway. They're just neutral. It's just something to talk about. There's just nothing. They're just neutral. There's nothing there to suggest one way or the other. Here's the futures, and so far it's just a little narrow range day. Does it take it out, take out the low, go to the higher time frame, and it's just a mess. It's tightening up. There's a lot. Well, just counting them here, I guess it's about equal. Pivot highs and pivot highs and pivot lows. Just looking for some kind of clear information. What I do see, that this started the way down, and a huge red bar couldn't follow through, and this support here and a big bar couldn't follow through. And we've got all this whippy action, and it's tightening up. Does it break today? Is it just a sleeper day, worse than yesterday? And even, if it closes near the top of the range, really doesn't, it's really not all that powerful or convincing. And so, hitting the 200, which is down here, and at some point, it's going to give it up. So when is it going to happen? We know it's not going to stay this way indefinitely. Right? Are we all going to go find something else to do or go find some other market to trade? But look, it's just slow. And, so yesterday in 2020 hindsight would have been, I said, the spreads were so close, were relatively tight on SPX. And I said, well, I'm not interested because it's not that far away, but it was one of those days where you could have done an iron condor and you would have made money on both sides, because things didn't move. But, we don't get to know the end of the day at 9 o'clock in the morning. Let's look at the cues. So here is a little bit more convincing for it to go lower. It was a larger gap, it got into some of the resistance. It was a bigger gap, and we got larger bodies, candle bodies, red, green, red. And of course, it's got to break the prior day's low. And if it does that, prior day's low. Yeah, so you can see if it does that, there's a void. That 351 area breaking below that, this isn't going to stop it. That's my impression looking at the chart, and that, the rule of it traded below and back above, and the way it went back above had such momentum, at that point, it's like, okay, if it can go sideways, it'll go higher. And that didn't happen. And now it's sideways, and it, had an attempt to turn. It couldn't even get through here. So that indicates weakness, and that, sellers, while it's a standoff, it kind of leads more to looking at this bigger picture that it should go down. Yeah. And our futures, just kind of a grind lower. And, just coming into this week over the weekend, those of you that heard, my message on the weekend letter videos was like, I don't like what we're coming into this week. I don't know. The patterns don't really strongly suggest moving one way or the other. And that's what's playing out right now. Well, it's just, the slow grind that there's indecision out there, and institutions are waiting for some kind of news. Maybe they're hoping that this market could rally so that they could sell into it. Because look, if they really wanted to deploy the money and come in, it would be going up. Rather it's just kind of hanging there. Yeah, Dan's saying there's a lot of talk about CPI. And, Dan, interesting. When is the last time we've heard about CPI? I mean, it's got to be, I don't know, what people started talking or quoting what CPI is while it gets reported, while, being talked about in the news. I'm guessing it's got to be more than 10 years, maybe longer than that. So, inflation, which is, no one's worried about inflation for the longest time. And, when there was talk about inflation some years ago, I thought to myself, hey, if there's all this inflation, why aren't interest rates going up? We did have many years ago, gold did make its move. And, yesterday I did mention that gold was the best looking chart out there. Right? The best looking of what was looking not so great, right? Mentioned that had this big bottoming tail and the gap down, and it had a decent day yesterday, and the futures, had a nice day, and they're up here. There was a nice little rally there. And the Dow here is actually up a bit, but it's just in another damn inside day. There's just nothing happening here. And visual aid moving averages. Look at the 20 sitting on top of the 200. It's a way of recognizing through what we call a visual aid that the spring is being wound. And the one thing here, because this market has been so erratic, is the first move going to be a whipsaw? Maybe it's best, especially there's resistance here, there's a void here, there is some support. Maybe the best thing other than a quick scalp is to just stand aside and wait for something clearer, more definitive as to a bar that clearly shows commitment to a direction. That's just a tiny little range going on here. So yesterday was just under 400 points, and that's what these numbers are right here. That particular bar, the size of the range, and today so far it's 200 points. And if we look at the industrials, well, yesterday 500. Well, yesterday was 300, right? Because this isn't moving. That's the way I would see it, Tony, is that the downtrend, as you say, has the upper hand. But one of the scenarios that I mentioned over the weekend and yesterday was a higher low, higher high that gets a little closer to resistance, that then sellers have more confidence to sell and resumes, the power of the downtrend. And here you can see the weekly chart is broken. But the longer it goes sideways, you put yourself in someone else's trading seat to say, hey, this was a nasty move to the downside. Really liked the move up off of the low. But, based on the inflation thing and things to worry about, if I can sell up here, that would be optimal. Well, the longer it spends here, the more somebody thinking I want to sell here starts to think, you know what? It's trying, but it can't do it. And then as more institutions start thinking, and just because they're institutions and not individuals, it doesn't mean they think differently than us. They control more money, but the psychology is the same, where it's like, hey, it's not going up. I really don't want to hit the bid and kind of go against myself, but then it becomes, okay, who's going to blink first? So one person hits the bid, the red prints are going off. It starts inching down. It comes to the prior low, and others start jumping on and saying, hey, I better sell too. And the whole thing kind of, snowballs on top of itself and so on. So everybody's just kind of waiting here to see what'll happen. Russell doing absolutely nothing. Don't you think that computers do that these days? I would think so, George, because look, as people become more sophisticated in understanding price patterns and the psychology of those patterns, you just need a way to communicate to a programmer. How does the programmer take, right, that math, right? How many trades are going off on the bid versus the offer? What's the prior high? What's the percentage to the prior high? What's the percentage to the prior low? Are things getting tighter? And they're looking at order flow and so on. So a computer can process all of that. And so while computers don't have emotions, through programming, I believe that while it doesn't spit out emotions, would it in the end of its calculations or conclusion as to what's happening, we can see through the chart programming, the chart analysis, by the way I'm explaining it, is in understanding those emotions, that eventually those emotions are going to kick in and those computers are going to hit the sell button. Yeah. Well, the programmer has emotions, but his job is supposed to be, how do I type in the code that tells this computer, through symbols and math and whatever, that, it's time to sell or it's time to buy. All right. Nothing going on. Your transports, inside day, nothing going on. What's our VIX doing? Just dead. But if I'm looking at this as a chart and I see that rally, which the market was down, and it comes down, market went up, and now it's flat, it's doing nothing. I don't know which way is it going to go. We got topping tail there. Yeah. No great information there. Yeah, exactly, FT. I mean, you just need a guy smart enough with coding. And I'm sure there's tons of guys out there, since this has been happening, so long, this program trading is no longer in its infancy stage. Well, long-term capital thing was, I don't know that it was so much. If you read the book When Genius Failed, that was, I think, more, while computers may have been involved, they weren't the cause of long-term capital. Read the book. It's a great book. And you see how the inner circle of bankers and CEOs and of these big firms, they created that disaster. Bitcoin had a nice move. Looks like it's met its destination area for now, but a nice move off of the low. Thought it might could get to 30,000, and eventually we'll see how it handles this resistance. Does it go sideways or come right all back in again? But we mentioned the correlation here with this date where Bitcoin topped out. And, the markets did. And now we had this nice rally day and nothing happened. 1 second, everybody. All right. Crude oil, little breakout failure, rolling over here a little bit. I guess it's due. Look at the weekly chart. Wide range bar. Right. Back here, it talked about the greater than 100% retracement. The momentum stalled and it picked up again, but now we got a wide range bar. So we'll see. Does this come retrace all the way back here, which would be more of a confirmed breakout failure, versus can it, kind of flag to head back up? I'm not getting any advantages, no matter where I look, as to what's happening here in the short term. Long term, I think it just eventually will roll over. But silver resting after yesterday's wide range bar. Gold we looked at. I think that can still go higher. It's got a void. Euro, that exploded up to resistance, which is interesting, with the idea that it's what, thing about psychology and markets and intermarket analysis. And when things don't make sense to a certain point, in that, short-term interest rates are going to go up, right? The Fed's going to raise interest rates. And I mean, this has been going up. Now it comes down real hard. Maybe more of the, hey, we all know what's going to happen. So now the dollar got sold off a bit, because as the Fed raises interest rates and short-term interest rates go up, it supports the dollar. Well, look at this. Is this today? Yes. Means the 3-month popping like that. So that's more of a vote that they're going to raise half a basis point. And how long can the markets hang up here? 5-year going up, 10-year going up, 30-year going up. Keep the powder dry and maybe let the initial move start. See if it gets a whipsaw here, but is not to get chopped up, because that's what's going on right now. All yours, Dan.
Good morning. Yeah, so with oil and Bitcoin coming in a little bit, we have a couple open positions. They're coming in a little bit also, but they're fine. OIH, we did a put spread on yesterday. I still like it. It's fine. Retracement concepts, we don't want it to go more than 50%. That's kind of right there. So I hope it holds here. Slob, we've been in for a while. Not Slob, I take that back. Slob, I posted as a 30-minute high. Halliburton, we've been in for a while, way down here. We got into Hal. That looks fantastic. We did some put spreads, Mara and Coin yesterday. They're fine. And we've been in Mister for a while, just rolling that one. All right, so the other positions are fine. Let's go right to gappers of interest here. JP Morgan. We had as a 1, 2, 3 yesterday with yields rising. A couple bank stocks are gapping up. That could be a day trade long. SLQT had earnings or lack thereof. Wow, that looks like a death trend. Select Quote, is that the guy who they flood us with commercials? Select Quote, I don't know what type of insurance that is, but that is ugly. Look at this little SBEV igniting bar. Wow, look at the volume here. And burning off steam, catching up to the 20, and now it's popping again here pre-market. I have that in this middle chart. It's worth watching. Cody, bottom right little chart, little gap breakout. It's kind of whipping around here pre-market, but it's made the turn. Downtrend. It's breaking the downtrend and a gap breakout. So that looks really good. 30-minute high. My charts are small. Well, I haven't changed my charts in years. So are you saying it's different than before? Or they're just generally small? Yeah, it must be you, yeah. All right, SOPA. SOPA kind of has, since it started at $10, gapping up to 437. We'll see what it does. Maybe something's going on there. Verns, bottoming pattern, gapping up to 40.50. That looks good. If it is gapping up here to 40, then that's a 30-minute high idea. TDC had earnings, gapping over a red bar with a price void. That looks great. I think $46 could be a chip shot, provided it just holds its morning strength. I have it on my other computer. I'll watch. T2. I mentioned I was going to give this as a naked put, but in the weekend letter, but it had earnings, and now it's gapping down on earnings. We'll come back to it. Twitter. I read something interesting that the ARC lady was liquidating a bunch of this before the last earnings report or whatever. You know, gapping down here a little bit with the Qs. I actually thought when I read that it'd be down more because, you know, the herd mentality, they like to do things after the fact. It's like when a big hedge fund says, oh, I've accumulated 7% stake in XYZ, and then it gaps up. It's like fundamentals haven't changed one friggin' iota. He's already in it. She's already out of it. But, you know, I understand a little bit because it's just showing a vote of confidence from an allegedly successful person. ACLS, if it's gapping over yesterday's high, then 30-minute high has room. 68, 70 bucks. We'll come back to that one. Pru was on yesterday's list. Kind of a 1, 2, 3. CCL was strong, and it's gapping up. A couple of these hotels broke out. Hilton, Hyatt, Marriott, LVS, Wynn. Let's keep an eye on all of them. TFII gapping up to 105. Wow, that's a big gap way up here. Put spread watch, we'll come back. SSD, same, 113. This is what we call a bullish new low divergence. It made a new low, but didn't, not by very much. And now it's a bullish gap up. So if it can hold the morning gains, 30-minute high, then I like that. My trade station window is not full size on Zoom window. Greg, if you're still there, does it have anything to do with you giving up moderator status or whatever? Yeah, I think Greg took off. All right, shoot. Let me text him real quick. No, because Greg swapped something around since he's gone for the rest of the day. But let me just text him real quick. All right, I just texted him. I hope he didn't run out of the house that quickly. THC, that's a big mess. Looks lower though. It's at the bottom of the range, but it looks lower on the weekly. Echo Whiskey alarm just went off. All right, so Echo Whiskey 5-minute low is a go. That was in the weekend letter. Edit gapping down. Now see, this is a good example of it's a bearish consolidation in a downtrend until we get a something bar, something that jumps out at you of a reversal, and there is none yet. So you just got to assume that's a resting period in a downtrend, which it is. CNC, if it can get over yesterday's high, then that is a bullish pattern. We'll come back. Amgen, wow, that's a big get. That's a put spread idea. We looked at that. PEG, that's strong. 30-minute high. I like the 180 reversal right there. Leg. I don't know. It could be a day trade maybe. General Motors got a downgrade. That's ugly. Tried at this prior low, but no, it looks lower. That's an ugly breakdown from a sell setup. KFR, if it can turn around and take the high out. Chug, bullish gap at resistance. Vert extended, TDG. $600 stock. It's a bearish gap under that green bar. SYY was a bearish gap, but buyers are stepping up. Mabu, no pattern. J, no pattern. IT, bearish gap, but on support. Hog, bullish, very bullish gap, but it's right at its target there, 200. HLI is not moving. OCPNY. Oh, what do you want me to do with this? PFG. Yeah, let me stop YouTube.